Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a video, aside from my redoing my intro video a few days ago. I'm not sure how far along that was. But tonight it's really late. I'm doing this live because I really was called to do this, and I was called to do it, I feel, because I feel like I was called to do it because maybe someone needs the message right now. And I'm just going to say a blanket hello to everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. And please, if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to my channel. And I will be posting more and more videos. The reason... So I won't be pulling cards tonight. I will be doing a surprise live for that this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, one of those days where I will be pulling some cards for free and just kind of doing some Q&A with you guys. But tonight I really wanted to share with you my experience with Archangel Michael and spirits before I became a priestess, because I get this question a lot. Because my family was very involved in the tradition and spirituality my whole life. It's what I was born into, and to me it was normal. It was almost like any family who was born into like Christianity, and they're like really big Catholics and stuff like that, or they're really big Jews or Hindus or whatever religion you follow. Like, to me, my practice, my spiritual practice was the norm, but I didn't really think too much into it, okay? So my spiritual practice for me, I was involved in it as a child. I had a few initiation baptisms as a child for protection. So that's why I'm at this level of being a high priestess. But I never really got too involved with it until I became older, okay? In the beginning, I was involved with it. I practiced it a lot for myself, or maybe for some friends. We kind of just tested some things out, but I didn't really get involved with working with the guides until I was much older, until I really started to understand what all this stuff that my mom and my grandfather were talking about from experience. And so my first experience with a spirit was actually when I was 6 years old. I was probably 5.5, 6 years old. And I was, at that time, I used to actually live with my grandmother in Dominican Republic. And at that time, my grandmother and my grandfather had a temple in the backyard. So people from all over the country, all over the world used to come and visit my great-grandmother and my grandfather for spiritual healing. So at that time, to me, it was like, what are all these people doing here? Like, whatever. I didn't get it. I was 5 around that time. But as my grandfather started removing negative spirits from people, and my great-grandmother removed negative spirits from people, I started seeing these spirits roaming around the house. A lot of people think that because you have a spiritual gift that you are a medium, but that's not always true. You can be a spiritual healer and be a medium, or you can be a spiritual healer and not be a medium. Just have psychic gifts. So it's interesting because it appears that I was, every lineage before me that I know of could see guides, could see the angels, could see all those kinds of beings. Michael is making me really hot right now. He just kind of flew in the room. But they never really expressed that they could see the dead. Okay, so I started seeing spirits walking around and things like that. I had a few scary instances I told my grandfather about. He took care of it. But moving forward, when I was about 5.5, 6 years old, I remember this clear as day. I was sleeping, because at that time I used to actually sleep in my grandma's bed because I was terrified of sleeping by myself. I was terrified when I was 5 years old because I could see the dead. And I was terrified of sleeping by myself, so I was sleeping in my grandma's bed. And one night I was still awake, and I remember seeing this spirit, this like white being hovering over my grandmother. And I was like, who is this person? And I was instantly, I was like shocked, but I was terrified as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old person. You have to understand, like, even though I grew up in this, I was terrified. I was like, who is this? It was a female for sure. She told me, she made me feel instantly that she was my grandmother's sister who had passed about 5 days before I was born. So she was there to bring a message to my grandmother. And I believe at the time that she was there to bring a message to my grandmother about someone who was going to pass very soon. But I got so terrified of her when she showed up. And I was like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. Please, I don't want to see you. So for the longest time after that, I didn't see spirits because I got so terrified after seeing her for the first time. And I was just terrified of seeing this spirit. But it was like, but I wasn't scared of her because she was dark. I was scared because I wasn't ready to accept my gift. I was like, nope, I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with this. No, 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 no. After that, I do remember getting a few visits by some angels and things like that when I was really scared as a child, and things, and those kinds of things. But really, my first big visit happened when I was around 16 years old. And when I was 16 years old, I was going through a really, really rough time. So this is the first time that I actually encountered Michael for the first time. I had never encountered Archangel Michael before this time. I had encountered other angels like guardian angels and spirits and ancestor spirits. But I had never encountered Michael before. This was my first time. I had a lot of faith in him because I had an aunt who had a lot of faith in him. And for some reason, I had a lot of faith in him, even though I never had encountered him personally. But my aunt was so in love with him. She always prayed to him. She always lit him candles. She always set out offerings for him. She always prayed that he would protect her children. And she was just always so dedicated to him that when I started having some issues, I did start praying to him here and there, but I didn't really believe that he was going to help me, if I should say that, in the beginning. At first, I just did it because I was like, okay, what do I have to lose by praying, right? So in that mindset of like, what do I have to lose, I started praying to him. And I did go through some rough times. I was going through some really, really rough times in my family with some things that I wasn't really sure I could accept myself with my gifts and some of the things that were going on in my life, my personal life. As a teenager, your life seems like a big deal. Like a lot of things are really small, but they can be huge in your life as a teenager. And in that time, I got to a point, and I'm not really sure, I can't even remember at this point. It's almost like he erased some of my mind, some of my memory of it, because it was such a painful time. I was in my room. I had been crying nonstop for about a month. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And as I'm sitting there, as I'm laying there, I was thinking of like every way that I could possibly commit suicide in that moment. And as I was about to try my first way, I felt this presence in my room. And I was like, and I was shocked by this presence. And I was not really sure why this presence was there, but this presence, it was overwhelming. It was, I almost want to cry thinking about it, because I remember sitting there wanting to take my life. And maybe this can help some people out there that are thinking the same thoughts that I was thinking in that moment. And feeling this presence come into the room, and I put my head up, and standing in front of me is this beautiful, beautiful angel, and with this gold and just red and just fire, and and I was just in shock. And I don't share this story with a lot of people because I was always afraid no one would believe me. But there was just this, and he was tall and just beautiful, and he just said to me, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And I remember him saying to me, don't do this. And I said, why? Why not? And he said to me, don't do this. And he says, I will show you what your purpose is, but not now. But I need you to give me time. And I said to him, I was shocked still. I thought I was hallucinating at this point. I said to him, I'm not really sure that I can give you time. I'm not really sure that I can continue with my life the way that it's going. And he says to me, there are lessons that we still have to make you go through so that you can fulfill your mission. And I was just like, well, whatever mission it is, like, I don't know if I really want it. I was just like, I don't think I want this mission. I don't know what mission you're talking about, but I'm not really I'm almost arguing with this angel, and it's just like, okay, did I just finally lose it? And I finally have reached a point of grief where I've lost my mind. And I have heard of other people. I've heard of other, I've always, my whole life, I grew up with my mom talking to Saint Anne. And she would talk out loud to Saint Anne, and I was just like, oh my God, my mom is losing it. But it was normal in my life. But my mom is definitely not insane. She is totally sane. So anybody who's worried about her, she is sane. She is just an amazing psychic as well, and she's an amazing healer. But at that point, back to my story with Archangel Michael, he's just telling me, he tells me, if you don't do this, and I promise you I will make everything better. And I kind of, at that point, I was like, okay, like, do I take this being's word, or do I just give up now? And something in me, it's just, I was filled with so much, all of a sudden I was filled with so much, I was enveloped in this feeling of love that it was almost like I couldn't even fathom the thought of giving up. And it was like, you don't want to die. You may think you do, but you don't. You want to live. And I was just like, okay, so I'm going to take your word on that. I'm going to be okay, and that things are going to change. And things didn't change for a long time. But periodically I heard his voice say to me, just wait. And he would say to me, trust me. And he would constantly say these things to me. 2 years after that, I had a really bad experience. I had a really bad breakup, and my cousin passed away, and a few people passed away in a very short period of time. And I got out of a relationship that I was really attached to, and I was really having a hard time. And I would just be driving to work, and I'd be in school, and I'd be crying my eyes out, and I would just be like, Michael, you promised me things are gonna change, and things just haven't changed. If anything, things are getting worse. And I heard his voice say to me, I can't build you a house if I don't burn the old one down. And in that moment, I was like, what the heck does that even mean? How much worse can this get? And it is like him telling me, I'm burning down this house because I have to recreate the foundation that you were brought up on. Because even though my family was very spiritual, there was a lot of things that were, you know, maybe, you know, not in any way blaming my parents or anything like that. They did the best they could, but there were some things that didn't go as I planned, because there were some people that I expected to be there for me that never were. And that was rough on me. As a person who cares a lot about others, I never understood why others couldn't care about me the way that I cared about them. So it was really rough for me at that time. And so like I said, so when I was 16, I wanted to take my life. And then when I was 18, I was at the brink again. And I was just like every 2-3 years, I'm just like, what more could I possibly do? And it's like every time I got close to that moment, Michael would say to me, wait, trust. The last thing he said to me about 6 years after our initial meeting was, the time is almost here. And he says, the time is almost here. We're getting you ready, because if you don't go through this pain, you will not understand the pain that those people that we need you to help are going through. And in that moment, I said, okay, I understand. So my pain had a higher purpose. And even the last 3 years, they have not been perfect. I've had some seriously low points. I had a point where I was homeless. I had a point where I had no food. I had a point where my partner and I were sharing a hamburger from McDonald's because we had no money. We had 98 cents in our car at the time, and we had no money for food, and we were sharing it. But somehow I knew that Michael was going to make it okay. Just some knowing, and it was every time I started to doubt, he filled me with that knowing. He filled me with that feeling of love that I had felt the first time that I wanted to take my life. And I just, no matter how bad it got, I just couldn't take it. It got to a point where I started working. I went to college. I finished my degree. I started working out in the world, in the regular jobs. And I was working retail. I was working store management. I was going towards working in forensics. I was going towards law. And I got to a point where I was just like, it got to a point where like I thought my whole life was figured out already, because I had forgotten about Michael's promise to remind me of when my mission had to start. And my partner's friend from childhood committed suicide. And I had never met her mother or her or anybody. I had only heard a few things. I had only heard maybe her name and how my partner met her. But I had never heard anything about her. And she committed suicide. And her mother was going through many things, but for some interesting reason, she decided to choose me to deliver a message through. And I was just like, I'm going crazy. So for a long time, I had not seen spirits. So you guys have to understand, I had not seen spirits in a long time, aside from Archangel Michael, because when I was 6-8 years old, I had told him, I don't want to see you guys. I'm scared. I don't want to see you. And I had started helping people as a priestess before this point, but I hadn't really taking it up as a full-time thing. I was doing it part-time, and I wasn't really taking it seriously. I was dabbing in and out of it, and learning from my lineage and all those things, but I hadn't really decided that it was going to be my thing for my whole life. And so she started delivering messages through me, and just the things that she was saying to me, that I was saying to her. I met her mother finally, and I was saying to her mother, and I had never had contact with her mother. I had never seen her. I had seen, I had heard of her, but I had never seen her. I had never really had any deep conversations about her with my partner. So I didn't have any other way to know these things unless I was speaking to her. And when I started speaking to her, and then I started communicating, and I started seeing her, and then I saw, and then when I saw her, she told me that the reason she committed suicide was because she had a negative being attacking her whole life. And she had tried to commit suicide multiple times, but she did not have the upbringing that I had about asking the angels for help and asking the guides for help, because we have free will, and as adults we have to ask for help, okay? So she had not had that upbringing. She didn't know anything. She didn't have any religious background or any spiritual background. She didn't believe in any of it. But she was telling me that she had a few dark beings attacking her, asking her to hurt her family, and she chose to commit suicide because of these things. And aside from all the private things that she told me about herself, to tell her mother, and about places that her mother could find things of hers and things like that. And it was really, to me, I was still shocked. I still couldn't believe that I was speaking to spirits. Time went by. I ended up actually living with her mother just out of circumstance, because she explained to me that her mother needed my help. And I was just like, I don't really know how I'm going to be able to help her. And but anyway, I ended up living with her mother for a short period of time. And then I ended up getting my own place with my partner. And then we ended up living together again for a while. And her mother just had some things that she needed to get cleaned of. But it was just interesting, because along the way, Michael always reminded me, your mission is coming. And it didn't really hit me until a few years ago that my mission was to help people. And if anything, if you don't get anything out of this besides this, I'll be happy. Whatever situation you're going through, whatever thing is really bringing you down, know that your angels are there to help you. They may not get you out of this situation in a week or a month or a year or years, but they will get you out at some point, because Michael promised me he would get me out, and he did. I had to struggle along the way because I had to learn those lessons, but he did fulfill his promise to me. And every single day he fulfills his promise to me. Anytime that I have to pay a bill, he makes sure it gets paid. Anytime that I'm afraid that something's going to happen to someone I love, he makes sure that that person is protected. So someone asked if there are any dark mysteries. Yes, there's dark mysteries, and then there's light mysteries. So usually the dark mysteries don't call themselves mysteries. I do know that there is a tradition that's called the 21 divisions, but they are kind of more, they work more with dark beings. They're not beings of light. So you really, through your intuition and your feelings, you really can tell what you're working with. If you're working with a being of light, or working with something that's imposturing as a being of light. What I would tell you is, a being of light would never force you to do anything that is going to harm someone. A being of light would never ask you to do anything that is going to harm someone else. I have had experiences where I've had people come to me and they've said, well, this person did this to me and I want to destroy them. And I have to say to them, I can't do that. I don't care how much money you want to give me, because if I do that, my beings will leave me. And trust me, no amount of money is worth trading Archangel Michael. No amount of money. Something in me from the moment I've met Michael has told me that no matter what situation I go to, I could go all the way back down to having a penny to my name and I will rise again. But I will not rise again if I give up. Yes, Florida water is a good negative repellent. It's good to try to get one that is more closer to the original, because there's a lot of imitation ones out there, or get one from someone who makes it themselves, who knows the ingredients, because Florida water, some Florida waters that are imitation can be a little bit just scent and alcohol, but there's a lot of really good Florida waters out there that are made naturally, and there's a lot of and then of course there's the original Florida water that is very good to repel negative beings. Yeah. There is also asafoetida powder is really good to repel negative beings. Palo Santo will clear the difference between Palo Santo and sage. Sage will clear negative energy, but Palo Santo clears negative energy and invites in angelic energy. So negative things will not want to be in a space where there is angelic energy. It's kind of like trying to put, I don't know how to say this, white and black, and expecting them not to turn gray. They don't really like being around each other. So that whenever you do Palo Santo, it does invite in positive energy and invites in those ancestors that mean you well from your lineage. So it's important that we realize a lot of when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of television, and I ended up very depressed a lot of the time when I watched a lot of television. And it's because there's just a lot of negative energy coming through that. So it's important that you close those ports, because your TVs, your phones, all of those are ports of energy, and you can really absorb those negative energies through that. So it's important to close those. You can do that with just a few dots of Florida water and just asking your angels to close those ports. Your mirrors as well. Mirrors are actually a reflection into the other side of the veil. So they are open ports. So it's important to close those as well. It's important to not live in fear, guys. One of the biggest things that Michael always says is do not live in fear. If you live in fear, whether it's religious fear or fear of anything, you will end up attracting what you don't want more than repelling it. So it's important to be how should I say this, prepared, but not to be afraid. So it's always good to be safe rather than sorry, is what Michael likes to say to me. But it's always important to not be afraid. If you're afraid of anything, you will attract it more. So I hope anyone that was having a bad day today, it has a better day, decides to, I hope that this message helps you in some way. Michael is asking me to read you guys a prayer. So I do want to read his prayer for you guys before I go and leave it with you guys. I'm just trying to find it because I don't want to miss any of the words. I know a lot of prayers, so Michael's name actually means he who is like God. So whether God to you is a female or a male, Michael is one of those beings. I'm trying to find, can you pass me the Archangel Michael prayer, please? Yes, I'm trying to find it. Okay. I just want to make sure that I don't miss any words. Sometimes I get emotional and I miss some of the words, but I don't want to miss any. So I want to leave you guys today with the Archangel Michael prayer, which goes as follows. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl through the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. As I'm reading that prayer, I feel Archangel Michael's energy here. I'm not sure if some of you can see him standing right here behind me. His energy is very, very hot. You can tell my ears are really warm. They're really red. My cheeks are really red. He's just enveloping me in his energy. And I want to leave you guys with this prayer. And I want to say, I love you all. Not because I know you personally, but because I can feel the energy. I can feel the love that Michael has for you. And I want to share that love with you. And I want to do something like this as often as possible. I'm not good in the morning, so it's gonna probably be late at night. So I would love to do this with every one of the angels. As Raphael has come through asking me to give some messages as well as Uriel and Gabriel, and more of the archangels are just starting to show up. Many people don't know that there are over 70 archangels and over 400, 600 angels that can help. So what I want to do is I want to start a series just for this, just to talk to you guys and to end it with a prayer. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that my story has either inspired or has helped you in some way. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you're notified when I go live or whenever I post a video. I will be posting more and more videos. I've been doing a lot of things on Instagram, but my guides have wanted me to really pay more attention to you guys on YouTube and just to give you my love. And thank you so much. May Archangel Michael protect you and fill you with love and courage and self-confidence. Many blessings. Bye-bye.